I am so excited for this conversation this afternoon. My name is Stephanie Rance. I'm the co-founder of the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival and the Color of Conversation film series in Denver, and really excited to be doing this wonderful conversation with Miss Nikyatu Jusu, the director and producer and writer of Nanny. What an amazing film. Wow. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I watched it twice. I watched it a couple of weeks ago and then I watched it again today. And I'm just like, this film is really, really deep. I don't want to give anything away to everybody who's going to see it, but it really brought back memories of me living in New York, in Brooklyn, and just seeing nannies like that with kids, and not really thinking through their struggle and why they're doing what they're doing. So you really did an excellent job on this. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I can't wait for everyone to see it. So let's dive. And for me, it felt like a love story to mothers in sort of a dark way. But we can sort of unpack what that means. But it really is, to me, more of a love story to moms who are immigrants who come to America and are trying to make a better way for themselves and for their children.
Yeah.
You put that little horror twist into it, which I thought was pretty interesting. So let's get into it. Tell me about why did you do this? What was the inspiration and all that great stuff?
Well, my mother has done a lot of domestic work as I was growing up. So I'm Sierra Leonean American. I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. And my mother did a lot of in between other jobs. Like that was one of the more accessible jobs that she was able to have, is going into people's homes and taking care of people, especially in her later years in the workforce. Luckily, she's retired now. She made a return on her investment, which is me. And so she no longer has to go into strangers' homes. But as a kid, I was just fiercely protective of her, and I wondered, she's sacrificing for me, but how are these people treating her? And domestic workers are essentially the foundation of our society. They uphold so much and yet are made invisible by mainstream media and through a privileged gaze. People just don't see them. They take them for granted. The people cleaning your hotel room, the people cleaning your offices, the people caring for your elderly parents, the people caring for your children. So I wanted to cast a gaze on that without telling a straightforward drama, because I love genre. I love the darker genres: thriller, horror, psychological thriller. And I think that, as an artist, I love to play with the full arsenal of all the tools I can play with in terms of VFX and fantasy. And I knew I wanted to tell a story of resilience. I didn't want my protagonist, my Black woman protagonist, to be perceived as a victim, because I don't know any victims. I know survivors. And what better symbolism of that than our spiritual figures that allowed us as Black diasporic people to survive in different lands. So Anansi the Spider and Mami Watts are two spiritual figures who made sense to be figures who externalize Aisha's internal journey.
Yeah, and you put that together so beautifully.
Thank you.
We had a nanny for our kids when we lived in Brooklyn, and I often thought, it was weird because we're Black and she was Black, and we're Jamaican and she was Jamaican, and I felt this sort of like, I guess I felt like, I don't know, I felt like I shouldn't be doing this. Guilt. I felt weird. Guilt, that's the word. I did feel guilt, like, why, this is not right. And eventually we decided not to do it because I just couldn't get past that feeling. But when you talk about your lead characters having strength and not being a victim, it comes across, and I'm not giving anything away. There's this one scene in the movie when she's with the husband and he does, what he does. And I love, and she's talking about money as well. And I love how she stood up for herself and she's like, pay me. And she didn't cower down and she wasn't afraid. And I love that. I love that you made her such a strong character. And first of all, your lead actress, she's
Anna
Diop.
I think she's stunning. I'm not the only one. And the Libra in me, I have a
Libra too. Hey.
Oh, happy birthday, Stephanie. My birthday just passed 10/21. Really? Libra season. Okay. You know what? We'll talk about September 26th later, but we love beauty. And, part of what I assess in terms of casting is like, can I stare at these people for 90 plus minutes? I have a really short attention span. I know too much about the craft. It's hard for me to immerse myself in the average thing. So besides her beauty, but her beauty was what first piqued my interest. Like, she was mesmerizing, and it's not necessarily about a conventional beauty.
Right.
It's about, does this person draw your attention as your attention is competing for all these other things? And her face drew my attention, her eyes drew my attention, and then she auditioned. So we had an amazing casting director named Kim Coleman. And she's casted a lot of like amazing films. She's a Black casting director, and she's casted amazing Black films and just a range of films outside of the Black canon. But she put some really compelling women in front of me. She put some compelling Aisha, some compelling Maliks. And so Anna was just is so humble and about the craft that it wasn't like, some people have this bravado with their teams. It's like offer only. And I although I'm a rising, no name, quote unquote director,
Not for long, not for long.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't mind obscurity, but I do get how,
I get it.
being visible gets you more yeses.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And so, but there were some teams that were like offer only, but Anna was willing to audition. I didn't want to do an offer only situation. I wanted someone to audition to feel like I really was picking the right people. And then she killed her accent, she killed her audition.
Yeah.
And then we did chemistry casting. So I auditioned her with different Maliks, different Roses, and she was just down for the process. And I also believe deeply in chemistry. I think it's a lost art. I think that we're navigating an industry that just cares about names, like plugging this name with this name. Who cares if they have on-screen chemistry? I care. Especially as a filmmaker, I want people to have real palpable chemistry on the screen. And so, yeah, it was just such an amazing process with Anna. She's so committed to her craft.
It definitely came through, and the chemistry was just so powerful. And with her, you saw her sort of morph towards the end of that film. She is this beautiful woman, but then, as the film goes on, she gets a little dark, and she gets a little, is this real? Is this happening? Am I losing my mind? And the physical changes in her face and the way she carries herself was mesmerizing. It really was.
I had an amazing team. She was down for whatever. And we just we worked well together. Like, she listened, I listened. It was a dialogue. It wasn't about one person having ego. It was like, let's try this, or let's do this, or you're doing this. You're resorting to this thing that you do when I can tell you're not in the scene. This is me. Like, all actors have nervous tics, and if you hone in on what it is, you can tell when they're not present. And so it was just an ongoing dialogue with her on set.
Absolutely. And Malik, how did we find him?
Sinqua, also Kim, but obviously Sinqua has been working for a minute, has done a lot of TV. And there were some compelling Maliks, but it came down to not who I was attracted to, who my lead actress is attracted to. I'm not acting with him, and so I had to pull Anna to the side because she's so sweet. But I could tell who was like making her tingle.
Ooh,
I could tell.
Okay.
But I sat her down, I asked her, which Malik made sense. And she was so diplomatic. I was like, listen, we don't have time. We need to lock him in. So who actually, like, not a friend, not a homie.
Right.
So Sinqua was like the one who brought this levity and this lightness and this joy, know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And how did you guys get Leslie Uggams? I haven't seen her in a minute. That was great to see her on screen.
Stephanie, I love when people mention her. It was just serendipitous. Like, she came in, and she was one of the women whose tapes I was looking at through Kim Coleman and our producing partners at Topic, Daniela Taplin-Lumberg, brought her to me. And she was just so sage and graceful and wise. And like, this is someone who, no matter what dialogue you give her, is going to sound poetic. It's going to sound like advice you should take.
Absolutely.
And that's what I was looking for, like Toni Morrison energy. And
Oh,
she,
that's great. Yeah,
you know,
that's it.
she
That's a,
she
yeah.
she
Say
has
no
that
more. That
energy,
was it.
right?
That was,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. That's the quote right there. Now, how long did it take you to write this script? Was this
Woo.
something that you've been living with for a while? Was it
Yeah.
sort of like something for your mother, minus the horror part, but was it,
Yeah.
yeah.
It started off, I adore my parents. You know, it
Yes.
started off as, like you said, a love letter to my mother and her
Mhm.
sacrifices.
Yeah. That came
And
through. That definitely came
I'm
through.
glad. I'm
Mhm.
glad. And 8-ish years, because
Wow.
8-ish years, but I have to clarify that it's not like a consistent, I wasn't writing for the consecutive 8 years. It was more of getting in your head, thinking that nobody's going to care about it, taking a break from it, visiting another project, because you know what's really important, especially these days as an artist, is to stack different projects, is to not put all your eggs in one basket, but is to finish the baskets, you know, whether it takes you a decade or it takes you a year or it takes you a month. And so it was a project that I had this nagging voice that was like, it's too specific, you're not going to find the financing for this. But I paired up with my producing partner, Nikyatu Jusu, young, scrappy producer. I was a young, scrappy filmmaker, and
You're
she's
still young.
ah, you know what, Stephanie, I'm knocking right on that door. I'm not as young, but you know, she's Jamaican American, I'm Sierra Leonean American. So we both understood what that, you know, that sacrifice is like for our mothers like ours. And also Black American mothers are also, Black American women are also very prevalent in the domestic workforce. So it's like a combination of Black and brown immigrant women and Black American women. And so we understood that sacrifice. Her mother did some domestic work, so she kind of dragged me to the finish line. She was like, we're gonna find the financing. And a good producer, their job is to embolden a filmmaker and say, we're going to find the resources, you focus on finishing the creative part. And that's what I found in her. So that was what took us to the finish line. We got into the Sundance Labs. Sundance has been an amazing champion of my voice.
Good.
So it was a combination of all of these variables over the course of 8 years.
So 8 years to write it. How long did it take to shoot it?
So the funny thing about the industry is like, you take all this time to finish the thing, and then once you get the money, everything moves like, you know, really fast. So we got the money, we shot, you know, within the year. We shot at the peak of COVID last year.
Wow.
And I know, nuts. We shot at the peak of COVID all around New York City. Like at some point we were talking about cheating Toronto for New York for tax rebates and safety.
Sure.
But I knew I wanted to shoot on location in New York, because you can tell when it's.
And I'm going to tell you that when I saw the film, I'm like, she's in New York. So I'm glad you do that.
I'm glad we did too. And it wasn't easy. It's more expensive, it's harder, and COVID was a thing. But we shot over the course of 28 days last summer. And then we went right into post-production. The editor had started editing within the last 2 weeks of our production. And we killed ourselves to make the Sundance deadline. And the rest is history, as they say.
Wow. Well, like I said, congratulations. It's an amazing film.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Without giving anything away, and I won't give it away, talk to me about the symbolism of water in this film.
Yes.
What does that mean? I mean,
water,
I think I know, but for our viewers, what does it mean?
Yeah, water is such a source of memory, a source of birth, rebirth, death. You know, it's a very prevalent metaphor, especially for Indigenous and Black diasporic people. Like, we were brought, you know, over treacherous waters on ships by force to different nations as Black people. And some enslaved people chose to throw their bodies into the water before they made it to the destination rather than be enslaved. And some people were thrown overboard. So water is just, besides, of course, our history with water predates colonialism. Like, all of our history is not entrenched around that suffering, but so much of water's source is, you know, a sweet spot, but also a source of darkness for us. And I'm always interested in that gray area of what symbolism means. Toni Morrison has a quote that says, water has perfect memory. And part of what this film is about is memory, you know, is like forgiving ourselves just like you said, you felt that little bit of guilt. Like there are pieces of me and Amy. My mom made all these sacrifices, and now what does it mean, especially as a Black person in this country, to elevate to a level, class level that your parents weren't able to attain? Now you're hiring the people who were your parents, you know? And so there's a lot of grief and a lot of guilt. And I think water is just the perfect symbolic body that kind of encompasses these difficult things to negotiate.
Yeah, that scene in the shower, when she's in the shower and she's all curled up and the water's going through her. And I'm thinking, what is she thinking about in this scene? With that, I don't want to give it away, but I felt like, was it guilt? Was it, you know, was she not happy in her marriage? Like, why was she in that shower, sitting down, hugging herself with the water? I loved how you used water throughout that whole film. Stephanie. I really caught that. And it meant different things for different people. It really did. I found it interesting that the husband was never in water. Like the little girl was in water, but he was never in water.
Never. But he traveled over water to make good money to capture Black and brown trauma.
He did.
And come back over, you know, but he was never, but it's true. He was never, women.
He was never cleansing. He was never anything in water.
Never. That's so astute of you to notice. Yeah.
Oh, I watched the film twice. I was like, this film.
I'm impressed. I can't even watch it twice. I'm tired of watching my own. I've watched it way more than twice. So
well, that's kind of like me with the film festival. It's like, I cannot sit through this. I can't do it.
It's hard.
It is hard. It's hard.
I haven't seen a movie in a minute. I'm about to catch up on movies, but I've taken a quick break from movies.
So what are you hoping people get out of this film? And tell us when it comes on Amazon.
I hope Joe isn't listening. He's not. He's gonna kill me because I always forget the date. It's coming on Amazon. Okay, good. You can say it. I know it's mid-December.
Select theaters November 23rd, and then it'll be on video December 16th.
Yes. There we go. Oh, Joe's listening.
Yes.
They're gonna kill me. December 16th. You know what? Part of a self-defense mechanism for myself, I blocked out that stuff because
I get it.
I'm literally taking it's too much.
I get it. We're Libras. I totally get it.
I need to take this journey literally one step at a time. That's
exactly how I think.
But I hope that people enjoy, because now it belongs to the audience, you know, no matter what my intention is. But I hope that people just their empathy is strengthened by seeing a film like this. I hope that people have more self-awareness about not only the way they inhabit the world, but the way that other people around them, like a new gaze. Maybe you'll look up and see the woman, truly see the woman, and be curious about her backstory, who's cleaning the table across from you at the cafe. You know, I hope that people's gazes are sharpened for the human beings around them. That's really my goal with every film, whether it's horror or action or whatever. These are empathy machines. They have the potential to be.
I agree with you on that, you know, and I am really happy you shot this in New York, because I think when you say things like empathy and you're hoping people, you know, take a moment just to acknowledge or just see this person who takes care of children. I feel that doing it in New York, people who are New Yorkers like myself, we're always just doing this. We're just walking. We don't even think, we're not even thinking about.
I've been knee deep in that hustle. You know,
so I really feel that that's going to really resonate, and I'm happy that you did it in New York. It was in Brooklyn. It was in Harlem.
We shot in Brooklyn. We shot in Harlem.
I saw it.
We
I felt it.
Tribeca.
I got it. I saw it. I was like, yeah, this is it. And I feel like people on the East Coast, specifically in New York, are going to get this because we are such right here. It's like, I got to get from point A to point B, and I'm blocking out all this stuff right here. But your film helps people to stop. And to kind of think about this person and their life and why the choices that they're making. Like, she's an educated woman, you know, and she has to do this to survive, to get her kid back to America. And I think it's really important that people really do stop and think about the reasoning and not judge, right? That's
I agree.
Thing, not to judge.
No, I love that you have this uniquely New York gaze, because you're right. Like, we're all in that.
We're just like hustle. This. Yeah.
And you have to be to make it through the day, to make it through the week, to make it through the
To not get run over walking down the street.
to not get run over, to make it through the winters. Like,
yeah, man.
You have to be. And so I think New York is one of those microcosms that kind of represents, in good ways and bad ways, like the pinnacle of America, the pinnacle of the United States, both good and bad, because I love that city.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a surrogate, you know, I'm adopted. I was there for 13 years, but
well, then you're a New Yorker now. You're in the club.
I think so. I think so, Stephanie.
And the ending of the film, I'm not going to give it away. I thought it was beautiful. The ending was beautiful. It had me at the edge of my seat for a second, and then it was like, okay. And then that next scene was just so this rebirth again with water, and it was a rebirth. And I thought, wow, this is deep. You really went deep with this.
You get it. It's nice to have an interview where the person interprets accurately what my intention.
Oh, I'm glad I did that. Great.
Yeah, you definitely did. I mean, I know there's a tough moment in Act 3.
Yes.
But I hoped with the ending, because I've gotten a lot of you know, a mixed bag of reactions to the ending. Some people,
really?
Yeah, there's a lot of criticism, and this is my first feature, so I'm getting all the criticism out of my system.
Sure.
But a lot of it is like, the ending was too abrupt, it didn't make sense, you know, it was just, it's like, well, life is cyclical, like there's no
absolutely
to tie, you know,
right.
but the fact that you still see it as an upending, as rebirth, means that you understand my intention.
And I got, and water, it ebbs and it flows, and it's a rebirth. So I totally understood the end. I appreciate it. I thought it was great.
Thank you.
Well, Nikyatu, I am so honored that you took some time to speak with me. And I know the folks here in Denver are going to love your film. I wish you could come to the film festival. The Denver Film Festival is amazing. And that audience would
soon.
Yes, please come see me. They would love to embrace you, and they're going to love your film. And I hope to have you on the Vineyard again as well really soon.
Oh, Stephanie, you can count me back into the Vineyard for sure. Denver, I would love to. I hate the cold, but I would love to come visit Denver. But Martha's Vineyard, yes, the cherry has been popped, and I'm interested in coming back as many times as you will have.
Well, we would love to have you. And Denver is not that cold. That's the big myth about Denver. And there are Black people here. Yes, Denver's not.
See, you said that second part. I didn't.
Well, it's the big myth. People never think there's Black people in Denver.
That's true. I heard that.
Black people in Denver. It's not that cold. It doesn't snow that much because we're higher up. I've been here about 5 years, but no. And Denver, you know, I think of Denver, and when the audience sees this, they're going to laugh. I think of Denver as like a Benetton ad. It's just like you get
like
it.
Just
one love. It's a melting pot. Everybody loves everybody. It's an interesting place.
I love a melting pot. And if I can do Sundance, I'm sure I can do Denver. If I can do Utah.
It's cold as hell in Utah. It's not like that in Denver.
Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing you all in person one of these days.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. Congratulations on the film. I wish you much success, and I'm sure it's going to be fantastic.
Thank you, Stephanie.